William of Villehardouin. William of Villehardouin, Kalamata, 1211 May 1278 was the fourth Prince of Achaea in Frankish Greece, from 1246 to 1278. The younger son of Prince Geoffrey I, he held the Barony of Kalamata and fief during the reign of his elder brother Geoffrey I. William ruled Achaea as regent for his brother during Geoffrey's military campaigns against the Greeks of Nicaea, who were the principal enemies of his overlord, the Latin Emperor of Constantinople Baldwin II. William succeeded his childless brother in the summer of 1246. Conflicts between Nicaea and Epirus enabled him to complete the conquest of the Morea in about 3 years. He captured Monemvasia and built 3 new fortresses, forcing 2 previously autonomous tribes, the Tzakones and Melingoi, into submission. He participated in the unsuccessful Egyptian crusade of Louis&nbsp IX of France, who rewarded him with the right to issue currency in the style of French royal coins. In the early 1250s, William was the most powerful ruler of Frankish Greece. Most neighbouring Frankish rulers acknowledged his suzerainty. In 1255, he laid claim to the northern, or third, the lordship of Nicaea and the island of Euboea. Although the 2 other rulers of Nicaea were his vassals, they rejected his claim. They gained the support of Venice, I&nbsp, Ida and NBSP, Louis&nbsp, Roch, Lord of Athens, and other Frankish rulers. The conflict developed into a war of succession that caused much destruction of Euboea and mainland Greece. After William's victory in Attica in May 1258, Guy and his allies surrendered. Guy was tried for his disloyalty but was allowed to keep his Achaean fiefs. A succession crisis in Nicaea prompted the Epirot ruler Michael and NBSP Roman II Communes Darkers to form an anti-Nicaean coalition with William and Emperor to Sicily. In the summer of 1259, William and Michael assembled the bulk of their armies and marched as far as Pilgoni to fight the Nicaeans. The Frankish and Epirot troops could not cooperate effectively, and archers from the enemy camp harassed them continuously. After the Epirots abandoned their allies unexpectedly, the Nicaeans inflicted a decisive defeat on the Franks. William fled from the battlefield, but he was captured and sent to Nicaea. He was still in prison when Nicaean troops seized Constantinople and destroyed the Latin Empire in July 1261. The triumphant Byzantine Emperor Michael and NBSP Roman 8 Palais logo was released William in return for 3 southern fortresses in late 1261. The possession of the 3 forts facilitated for the Byzantine expansion, and William was forced to seek external support. With the approval of Baldwin II, he swore fealty to the Angevin king of Sicily, Charles I. William acknowledged Charles and his descendants as his heirs in the Treaty of Villehardouin on 24 May 1267. Charles sent troops to Achaea, and with their help, William was able to resist Byzantine invasions during the last years of his reign. Background. Thumb left upright equals 1.5 alt equals map showing the distribution of the Aegean region between the Franks and the Byzantine successor states around 1210. Frankish Greece around 1210. The Principality of Achaea includes almost the whole Morea in the south. Ruling from 1246 to 1278, William was the 4th Prince of Achaea. A state in Frankish Greece, Achaea was established in Byzantine territories in the Morea in southern Greece in the aftermath of the Fourth Crusade. William's father Geoffrey and NBSP of Villehardouin began the conquest of the Morea with the local Greek aristocrats' support in late 1204. As his allies soon died, Geoffrey approached Boniface of Montferrat, the ruler of the newly established Frankish kingdom of Thessalonica, for military aid. Boniface appointed William of Champa to accompany Geoffrey back to the Morea, and they mustered 500 knights in for the campaign. They captured Patras and other Byzantine fortresses and forced the Messenian and Arcadian Greek aristocrats into submission. William of Champlitte received the title of Prince of Achaea from Pope Innocent and NBSP Roman III in November 1205. The Franks could not capture Monemvasia in southeastern Morea, and Greek corsairs seized the fortress. The Frankish conquerors were also unable to overcome the natives in the southeastern, mountainous region. In the newly established principality, Geoffrey held the Barony of Kalamata and Messenia in fief. When William died in 1208, Geoffrey assumed power, likely with his peers' consent. He swore fealty to the Latin Emperor of Constantinople, Henry, at the Parliament of Ravenna in 1209. Henry confirmed Geoffrey as the new Prince of Achaea and made him an immediate imperial vassal. The leaders of the Fourth Crusade had promised much of the Morea to Venice in their 1204 treaty about the distribution of the Byzantine Empire. In the new treaty, Geoffrey recognized he held parts of his principality in fee from Venice, but the Venetians took no further steps to assert their theoretical suzerainty. As the Franks could not conquer all the Byzantine territories, 2 successor states, Epirus and Nicaea, emerged in the western and eastern borderlands of the Byzantine Empire respectively. The Greeks of Epirus started the reconquest of the former Byzantine territories in Thessaly in the 1210s. They annihilated the kingdom of Thessalonica and captured the city of Thessalonica in December 1224. Their expansion towards Constantinople came to an abrupt end when they suffered a massive defeat by the Bulgarians in the Battle of Klokotnitsa in 1230. The Greeks of Nicaea launched invasions against the Latin Empire from the east. By 1235, they reconquered Anatolia and seized the European bridgehead at Gallipoli. In theory, the princes of Achaea still owed allegiance to the Latin emperors, but in practice Emperor Baldwin II would have been unable to defend Constantinople without Achaean military and financial support. In return, he acknowledged Geoffrey's elder son and successor Geoffrey II as the overlord of the Triarch's 3 co-rulers of the island of Nicaea and possibly of other Aegean islands. Early life. William was the second son of Geoffrey I of Villehardouin and his wife Elizabeth. Elizabeth remained in France when her husband left for the Fourth Crusade. She and their eldest son, Geoffrey, only moved to Achaea when Geoffrey's position stabilised after the Parliament of Ravenica. She gave birth to William in the castle of Kalamata around 1211. Growing up in the Morea, William could speak Greek like a native and he felt home with both Franks and Greeks. As a younger son, William received the Barony of Kalamata and fief while his brother succeeded their father as prince around 1229. William married an unnamed daughter of Noja de Taizé, a high-ranking official of the Latin Empire. He administered Achaea as regent during his brother's military campaigns for the defense of Constantinople. Expansion and crusade. William came to power in Achaea when the childless Geoffrey II died in the summer of 1246. By the time of William's ascension, the relationship between Epirus and Nicaea had grown tense. In December 1246, the Achaean troops attacked and captured Thessalonica. William took advantage of the two Greek powers' conflict to complete the conquest of the southeastern Morea. He laid siege to Monemvasia with the support of a Venetian fleet and other Frankish rulers, including Louis&nbsp, and Louis&nbsp, lords of Athens who owed allegiance to William for the more fief of Argos and Morea, and Angelus and Nuda, Duke of the Archipelago. The defenders suffered because of famine, but they capitulated only in 1248 after William promised to respect their property and liberty. He rewarded the town's leaders with estates and exempted them from feudal obligations. William's conquest of Monemvasia forced the Tzakones of nearby Mount Ponon into submission. To secure his gains, William ordered the construction of new fortresses. First, in late 1248 and early 1249, he personally directed the construction of Mistrone near the Mount Taygetus, then the castle of Grand Magny was built in the Laconian Gulf. A third castle, Beaufort, was constructed on the Mycenaean Gulf. These castles secured the Frankish control of the Mount Taygetus, forcing the local Slavic tribe of the Melingoi to acknowledge William as their ruler in return for the confirmation of their liberty. Louis&nbsp, Duke of Burgundy, spent the winter of 1248-49 in Achaea. He was on the way to Cyprus where the participants of Louis&nbsp IX of France's crusade against Egypt were assembling. William decided to join the crusade and mustered 400 knights and armed a fleet of 24 ships before he left for Cyprus together with Hugh in May 1249. On the way, he sent 100 knights to Rhodes, an island that the Genoese had recently conquered from the Nicaeans, to strengthen its defence. From Cyprus, William accompanied Louis to Egypt and remained with him until the end of the abortive military campaign. As a reward, Louis granted him the right to mint coins in the style of the French. William returned to Achaea in May 1250. During the following 5 peaceful years, Achaea was the dominant power of Frankish Greece as most of the lesser Frankish rulers acknowledged William as their overlord. War of the U-boat succession. Count Anna del Cosari was one ruler of Negropont, sharing Auris and the island's northern triarchy, or that with Graepella of Verona. When she died in 1255, William wanted to seize her lordship, but Graepella laid claim to her inheritance. As the triarch showed allegiance to both Achaea and Venice, Graepella could cite a 1216 ruling by the Venetian or governor of Negropont that stated a co-ruler of a triarchy was entitled to reunite it if his or her partner died without issue. The lords of the island's two other triarchies, Guglielmo del Verona and Nosotto del Cosari, supported Graepella's claim. The Venetian chronicler Marina Sanido writes that the conflict developed into war after William had Guglielmo and Nosotto imprisoned because their wives convinced the Venetian Paolo Gradenigo to intervene and he seized the island's capital, Chalcis. If the two triarchs were indeed incarcerated, they were held in captivity only for some months. William appointed his nephew Geoffrey Briel to lead an army to Negropont. The Achaean troops laid waste to the island and expelled the Venetians. The Doge of Venice, Raniero Zeno, made Marco Gradenigo the new. Gradenigo gained the support of William's vassal William de la Roche and his brother, Achaea of Athens. Guglielmo of Verona and Nosotto del Cosari met Gradenigo at Gaia's seat in Thebes on 14 June 1256. At the meeting, the two triarchs rejected Achaean overlordship and swore fealty to Venice for their lordships. Two other Frankish lords, Thomas and NBSP Owentud Dordramenko, Lord of Salona and Ubertino Palvasini, Marquess of Baldwin, joined the anti-Achaean coalition, while William secured the support of Othon II, Lord of Caristos and Negropont and the Genoese. Gradenigo attacked Chalcis, and the Venetian infantrymen routed the Achaean cavalry near the city. The war quickly spread to mainland Greece. When William made preparations for an invasion of Attica, Geoffrey of Briel, who was the son-in-law of Gaia of Athens, deserted him. Before long, Chalcis surrendered to the Venetians. William assembled his army and invaded Athens across the Isthmus of Corinth in the spring of 1258. Gaia of Athens and his allies tried to stop the invasion at Mount Charybdis, but William inflicted a decisive defeat on them in May 1258. Gaia and his allies fled to Thebes, and William pillaged Attica and Boeotia. William attacked Thebes, but the city's archbishop persuaded him to abandon the siege. Gaia pledged he would never fight against William and agreed to accept the decision of the High Court of Achaea for his disloyalty. After hearing Gaia at Nickley, the Achaean aristocrats sitting at the High Court decided they could not judge the case because Gaia owed fealty to William only for his Moreot domains, not for the lordship of Athens. Instead of forfeiting Gaia's Moreot fiefs, the High Court referred his case for judgment to King Louis IX. As Guy accepted this ruling, peace was restored between the two Frankish rulers. Louis&nbsp received Guy in Paris in June 1259. The king and the French barons decided Guy had done adequate penance for breaking his oath of fealty by undertaking the arduous journey to France. Defeat and captivity. Doge Ranieri Zeno ordered the new of Negropont Andrew Barozzi to conduct peace negotiations with William early in 1259, but he became embroiled in a new conflict between Epirus and Nicaea before the negotiations began. The Nicaean Emperor Theodore and NBSP Roman II Lascaris was succeeded by an underage son, John and NBSP Roman IV Lascaris, in August 1258. An ambitious Nicaean aristocrat overthrew the child emperor's guardians and had himself crowned co-emperors Michael and NBSP Roman VIII Palaiologos. The ruler of Epirus, Michael and NBSP Roman II Caninos Darkas, wanted to take advantage of the Nicaean power struggles by fostering a wide anti-Nicaean coalition. He offered the hands of his daughters, Helena and Anna, to the Hohenstaufen ruler of Sicily, Manfred, and William respectively. He promised a generous dowry to William 80,000, the castle of Laconia and nearby lands in southern Thessaly. Since their possession could strengthen his hold on Aureus, William quickly accepted the offer. He married Anna in Patras late in the summer of 1258. Before the end of the year, he and his father-in-law met in Patras and concluded a formal alliance. According to the Chronicle of the Morea, Michael acknowledged William's claim to a revived kingdom of Thessalonica. Michael Roman VIII dispatched his brother John Palaiologos with fresh troops to Thessalonica. He sent envoys to Epirus, Sicily, and achieved to start peace negotiations, but Michael Roman II, Manfred, and William refused. Enforced by newly hired mercenary troops, John Palaiologos launched a full-scale invasion of Epirus. Unable to resist alone, Michael Roman II called for his allies' assistance in the spring of 1259. William assembled the bulk of the Achaean army. The Aragonese version of the Chronicle of the Morea, in this respect a source of dubious reliability, estimates that 8,000 first-class men-at-arms and 12,000 men on foot gathered for the campaign. William led the Achaean army across the Gulf of Corinth and joined his father-in-law at Arta. They marched to southern Thessaly, where reinforcements from Athens, Salona, Negropont, Naxos, and other Aegean islands joined them. After the Frankish and Etruscan commanders decided to fight a pitched battle instead of attacking fortified towns, the allies marched to Macedonia as far as the Plain of Pelagonia to meet the enemy force in June 1259. Although the combined number of the Epirot Frankish soldiery outnumbered the Nicaean troops, their command remained divided. John Palaiologos avoided battle, but his Cuman and Turkish archers continuously harassed the enemy camp. As their constant attacks exhausted the Franks in Epirot, Michael Roman II entered into negotiations with John Palaiologos' envoys, who urged him to desert his Frankish allies. The Byzantine historian George Pacamus asserts that the Epirot Frankish coalition split after Achaean knights disrespected the beautiful Vlach, wife of Michael Roman II's bastard son, John Darkas, because William refused to discipline them. Outraged by William's rude remarks about his legitimate birth, John Darkas deserted to the Nicaeans and convinced his father to abandon the campaign. John's unexpected attack from the rear caused panic, and the Franks' retreat quickly turned into a fight. Historian Constantine considers this whole episode, not reported by the more contemporary Acropolites, doubtful. Acropolites credits the allies' defeat to Michael Roman II's inability to resist the archers' attack. After his flight from the battlefield, the Epirotes either followed his suit or deserted to the Nicaean. As the Nicaean victory seemed inevitable, William fled towards Castoria. Acropolites writes that William hid under a haystack, but the soldier recognized him by his large protruding teeth. He was shackled and sent to Nicaea together with Answer of Tausi, Geoffrey I, and other Achaean aristocrats. Michael Roman VIII demanded the entire Achaean principality for William's release. William refused, stating that Achaea was the land acquired by force of arms, held by right of conquest by the conqueror's descendants, and that he could not surrender his vassals' territory. During his prolonged but comfortable captivity, Gaia of Athens assumed the regency for him in Achaea. The Nicaeans failed to conquer Thessaly and Epirus after their victory at Pelagonia, but their hold of Thessalonica was secured. As the Latin Empire was in ruins and exhausted, Michael Roman VIII decided to reconquer Constantinople from the Latins. He concluded an alliance which in order to secure naval support for the siege, but his general, Alexios Strategopoulos, seized Constantinople without Genoa's assistance, taking advantage of the absence of the Latin garrison on 25 July 1261. Michael Roman VIII was again crowned emperor in the Hagia Sophia and quickly deposed his underage co-emperor John Roman IV. After the fall of the Latin Empire, new negotiations began between Michael Roman VIII and William about the conditions of William's release. They reached a compromise when William agreed to cede Mistral, Grand Matany, and Monemvasia. As they had been built or conquered by William, the transfer did not violate Achaean customary law, but he could not cede frontier castles without the counsel and consent of his liegemen. To legalize the transfer of the 3 castles, William's wife convoked the imprisoned Achaean lords' wives to a parliament. Although Gaia opposed the proposal, the Parliament of Dames consented to it because the Achaean ladies wanted their husbands back. Before releasing William, Michael Roman VIII extracted an oath of fealty from him and took 2 Achaean ladies, Margaret of Passaventon and Anne, sister of John Choron, as hostages to secure William's compliance with their agreement. William returned to Achaea late in 1261. After the Byzantines had taken possession of the 3 castles, the Tzakones and the Melingoi transferred their loyalty to Michael Roman VIII. Conflicts with the Byzantines. Neither William nor Michael Roman VIII believed the peace treaty would be lasting. The Byzantines could use their Morea bridges for further expansion, while William could hardly acquiesce at the territorial losses. As a consequence of the Byzantine expansion in the Morea, William could rarely offer feasts to Western European knights, which diminished his principality's military power. Yet the Byzantines refrained from launching major invasions against Achaea because the Frankish cavalry was still able to inflict severe defeats on them. Instead, they attacked poorly garrisoned fortresses and seized them with the support of the local Greeks and Slavs. Pope Urban and NBSP Roman IV released William from the oath he had taken at Constantinople under duress, and William started peace negotiations with the Venetians. In May 1262, William abandoned his claim to rule parts of Negropont directly in return for the recognition of his suzerainty over the island. The Venetians were to destroy their seaside fort at Chalcis, but their quarter in the city was expanded. The possession of the port of Monemvasia allowed the Byzantines to transfer troops to the Morea. By the end of 1262, these seized Cape Melias and took control of the nearby Mani Peninsula. Pope Urban Roman IV urged the Catholic bishops and abbots of Frankish Greece to support the Achaeans against the schismatic Byzantines on 27 April 1263, but he soon realized he could achieve his principal goal, the unity of Christendom, only through negotiating with Michael Roman VIII. Michael Roman VIII sent a new army to Monemvasia in the summer of 1263. The Byzantines invaded Achaea and seized small fortresses, but the Franks routed them near William's capital at Andravida. Another Byzantine army marched towards Kalavrita and seized it with the support of the local population. Next year, the Byzantine commander John Cantacazinos launched a new invasion of Achaea, but he perished in a skirmish near Andravida. As he had failed to pay off his Turkish mercenaries, they entered into William's service. With their support, William defeated the Greeks at Nicaea and laid siege to Mistra, but he could not capture it. In response to the Byzantine offensive in the Morea, Urban Roman IV proclaimed a crusade against Michael Roman VIII, but he also appointed new delegates to start negotiations with him about the Church Union. Manfred of Sicily was willing to support the Franks against the Byzantine spy force, but Pope Urban, who regarded Manfred as the principal enemy of the papacy, rejected the offer. Instead of promoting an anti-Byzantine coalition, the papal delegates mediated a reconciliation between Michael Roman VIII and William before the Pope died in October 1264. Angevin suzerainty. Urban's successor, Pope Clement and NBSP Roman IV, granted the Kingdom of Sicily to King Louis Roman IX and his ambitious younger brother Charles and NBSP Evandro in 1265. Charles invaded southern Italy and Manfred died fighting against the invaders in the Battle of Benevento on 26 February 1266. Charles took full control of Manfred's kingdom and revived his plans for an anti-Byzantine coalition. As negotiations and the Church Union had not yielded results, Pope Clement embraced Charles' idea. He summoned Charles, the titular Latin Emperor Baldwin Roman II and William to Viterbo in Italy to discuss the conditions of an invasion of the Byzantine Empire by Charles. Charles and William reached an agreement after lengthy discussions. William swore fealty to Charles and promised not to make him fiefment, which will remain in effect after his death, beyond 14,000 of land. He consented to the marriage of his daughter Isabella with Charles's younger son Philip. Although his wife was pregnant, William acknowledged Charles and Charles's descendants as his heirs even if Isabella and Philip had no children, and Anna gave birth to a son, only stipulating the son's right to hold 1/5 of Achaea and fief of the Angevins. As historian Peter Locke emphasizes, William's concession showed the straits to which the principality had been reduced by the Greek offensive. In return, Charles promised military support to recover the territory lost to the Byzantines, but the details of his assistance remained unclarified. Baldwin Roman II confirmed the treaty and ceremoniously ratified in the presence of the Pope, 14 cardinals and further ecclesiastic and secular dignitaries in the papal chamber in Viterbo on 24 May 1267. In a separate treaty, Baldwin Roman II ceded all his suzerain rights over Achaea to Charles and his successors in return for Charles' promise to assist him to recover Constantinople within 6 or 7 years. As Charles's loyal vassal, William led 400 knights to fight against Charles's opponent, the young Hohenzollern Prince Conradin, in the Battle of Tzakones on 23 August 1268. On his return to Achaea in January 1269, William captured Valona to establish a secure bridgehead for Charles's troops on the eastern shore of the Adriatic Sea. The Achaean barons formally recognized the Treaty of Viterbo in the presence of Charles's envoys in 1270. Next year, Charles appointed the Marshal of Sicily, Drew of Beaumont, to represent him as Captain General in Achaea. At the same time, the adventurer Lecario had seized a sturdy fortress near Charistos in Euboea. He made an alliance with the Byzantines, and with their support he undertook to conquer the entire island. William and Drew launched a joint military campaign against Lecario and recaptured the fortress La Coppa of Lanari from him. The Byzantines launched 2 major invasions against Achaea between 1270 and 1275, but William was able to repel them with the support of Angevin troops. Walter of Roses, who held the barony of Achaea in Achaea, died childless, and his heir, Margaret of Passover, was still held as hostage for William in Constantinople. William claimed the barony Achaeated to the crown because she failed to claim it personally within the customary period of a year and a day. After her return from Constantinople, Margaret revived her claim to Achaea and took the influential aristocrat John of St. Omer as her husband to secure his support. St. Omer convinced William to compensate Margaret, and he restored 1/3 of the barony to her in 1276. As William's son-in-law Philip died childless early in 1277, it was evident that Charles or Charles's offspring would inherit Achaea from William on his death. He died on 1 May 1278. With his death, the male line of the Villehardouin family became extinct. Charles succeeded him without opposition, but he alleged he never visited Achaea. Galon of Avery represented Charles in the principality as Bailey and Vicar General. Legacy. Historian Kenneth M. Seton describes William as the most lordly of the princes of Achaea, emphasizing the strength and prestige of Achaea reached its zenith during William's rule around 1250. The author Nicholas Cheetham writes William was ambitious and headstrong by nature, but his political projects, conceived on a grand scale, were apt to fail because he overestimated his strength and took too many risks. William is the key protagonist of the Chronicle of Morea. Marinus Anida the Elder emphasizes the prosperity of William's principality, mentioning merchants could travel in Achaea safely without using cash. He says that William's court paid greater than a great king's court. William was noted as a true composer. 2 of his compositions have been preserved in a richly illuminated 13th century collection of ballads and poems. Achaea could never regain its power after the Nicaean victory at Pelagonia. Although the Byzantine governors of the Morea conquered the baronies of Passavant and Kalavrita during the last years of his reign, William kept most lands he had inherited from his brother. After the Treaty of Viterbo, Achaea passed for the duration of its checkered history into the orbit of Neapolitan politics, warfare, and intrigue. With opening the Principate of Clarence, William put an end to his principality's dependence on Byzantine coins. The Achaean coins were struck on the patent of William's coins during the reign of his successor. Family. William's first wife, the unnamed daughter of Nodjat of Taizet, was King Louis Roman IX, a second cousin through her grandmother Agnes of France. Cheetham writes she died before William inherited Achaea from his brother. Historian Cole Hopp conjectured that Carantana dal Cosseri was William's second wife. A certain writes she comes to life in the pages of Frankish history only on the day she died, for her death caused the War of the U-boat succession. Seton, among other scholars, endorses Raymond Joseph Lornetz's refutation of Hopp's conjecture. He writes that Hopp misinterpreted Marinus Anida's report of her death and its consequences. However, other authors, including Cheetham and Peter Locke, mention her as William's wife. William's next wife, Anna Colleen de Caena, took the name of Agnes on their marriage. Their elder daughter, Isabella, could not return to Achaea from Naples after the death of her first husband, Philip of Anjou. In 1289, Charles I's son and successor, Charles Roman II, restored her right to rule Achaea and married her off to his distant cousin Florent of Hainaut. After Florent died in 1297, she ruled Achaea alone until her third marriage with Philip of Savoy in 1301. The Achaean barons disliked Philip, and Charles Roman II released them from their allegiance to the couple in 1306. Isabella died in exile in 1311. William's younger daughter by Anna Agnes Margaret received the 2/3 of the barony of Achaea from his father in 1276. She married Isnard of Sabran first. Her second marriage was to Richard and NBSP at Orsini, Count Palatine of Cephalonia and Zakynthos, in 1299. In 1311, she claimed William had bequeathed Achaea to her in a secret will on his deathbed. Her claim gave rise to civil war between the supporters of her niece Matilda of Hainaut and her son-in-law Ferdinand of Majorca after she died in 1315.